Examining the Cinema 40 after trying the Cinema 60, Cinema 50, and Marantz's slimline Cinema 70s makes it quite evident that this bad boy is on an entirely new level. The Cinema 40 is designed to replace the SR7015, the product in line after Marantz's SR8015, which has many of the same features as this one. So, let's examine what has changed since its predecessor and what distinguishes it from the eerily similar Denon AVR X4800H. But let's take a short look at its specifications before we begin our full investigation. This 9.4 channel AV receiver has a processing capacity of 11.4 channels at 125 watts each. Along with the standard virtual and upmixing technologies like Dolby Surround, DTS Neural X, Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization, and DTS Virtual X, it supports a wide range of audio formats and technologies, including Dolby Atmos, DTS X, IMAX Enhanced, Auro, 3D, 360 Reality Audio, and MPEG-H audio. Additionally, we receive Odyssey Multiple EQ XT32 and a future upgrade for Dirac Live. It also has 740 gigabits per second HDMI 2.1 ports, HDMI upscaling, high-resolution audio, HEOS technology, AirPlay 2, voice control, custom integration, biamp capabilities, multi-room zones, Bluetooth audio transmission, and advanced preamplifier mode. You might be asking yourself why you should choose the Cinema 40 when the Denon AVR X4800H has nearly the same specifications and costs less money. And in some ways, you're right, because the Marantz is more similar to its sister brand than we first believed. Does the increased cost result in anything worthwhile, or is Denon the better option in this premium range? Let's investigate. The only significant design differences between the Cinema 40 and the rest of the new series are, obviously, its overall size and the layout of some of its built-in buttons. No significant adjustments were necessary to maintain equivalence with the other films in the Cinema series. The Cinema 40's dimensions are comparable to those of its predecessor, the SR7015, however there are a few minor variations, largely because a different chassis was employed this time. The new device has dimensions of 17.4 inch by 16.3 inch by 10.0 inch, but as always, you can move the antennas horizontally to reduce its profile to roughly 7.4 inch, which is a smart idea to free up some room. With a weight of 33.3 pounds, the Cinema 40 is a little heavier than the other models, which is likely due to different internal components. This is a Cinema 50 on a larger scale in terms of design. On either side of the front circular porthole, which also received an update because it is now an OLED one, are two large circular knobs for input selection and volume. The porthole is immediately below the front hatch, which conceals everything else. When this hatch is opened, a second, two-line functions display and numerous buttons with a different layout from the SR7015 are visible. 8 buttons, including one each for pure direct, MDAX, status, dimmer, and zone controls, are located on the left side of the display, and the standard navigation controls are located on the right. Only the setup microphone port and a USB Type-A port for attaching external storage are present below the screen. The Cinema 40 receives the same type of upgrade treatment as the Denon X4800H in the realm of supported audio formats. The receiver supports upmixing and virtual technology capabilities in addition to the standard Dolby Atmos and DTS X object-oriented audio tracks, so that it can accommodate all needs and unique room setups. There are the standard DTS Neural X and Dolby Surround upmixing technologies available. These upmixing modes upconvert stereo and legacy mixes to take full advantage of all the speakers in your system. In terms of virtual modes, Dolby Atmos Height Virtualization and DTS Virtual X can generate sounds that come from virtual speakers that are placed around your room even when there aren't any actual speakers there. The quality and accuracy of this virtual technology are obviously inferior to actual physical speakers, and they are also quite space-dependent. Additionally, the sound is frequently audibly overprocessed, which is something we have never really liked. The SR7015 also supported IMAX Enhanced and Auro 3D, but these are not the only additions. Several of Sound United's new models also feature some delectable new entries. By connecting a 360 RA streaming device through HDMI to the receiver, one of them, Sony's 360 Reality Audio, can be supported. The MPEG-H codec, which has begun to be widely utilized for broadcasting, is also supported. Several streaming providers, including Amazon Music and Tidal, use it to power their 360 reality audio music. It is already used with ATSC 3.0 in South Korea and over DVB in some European nations. As MPEG-H seems to be gaining some significant headway lately, it appears that we will be hearing about it more frequently. The Cinema 40 has 9 built-in amplification channels, each of which can provide 125 watts of power, making it theoretically very similar to the SR7015. Remember that this is only for 2 channels driven, therefore when all 9 channels are in use, the number decreases significantly. You also have the option of using 11 channels, however doing so requires an extra amp to power the final 2 channels. The SR7015 now has 4 subwoofers instead of the SR7015's 2, which is a significant change. Home theater enthusiasts frequently use multiple subwoofer systems, and it appears that Sound United noticed this. As a result, the existence of 4 outputs gives you a great deal of flexibility when designing your system. If you do decide to use 4 subwoofers, the AV receiver gives you 2 options for controlling them. Either in standard or directional mode, with the difference being that each subwoofer will output a signal based on its position and relationship to the other speakers in directional mode as opposed to standard mode, when they all output the exact same signal. For optimum immersion, you can use 4 dedicated overhead speakers and a 5.4.4 channel audio system with the built-in amplifiers. We chose a 5.1.4 setup for the purposes of this review, using a single subwoofer and 4 height speakers positioned at the front and back of our viewing area. Godzilla vs. Kong and Mad Max: Fury Road served as our starting point for our movie testing, and Lord of the Rings: The Return of the King was an obvious option for our finale. All of these films were watched in their gorgeous 4K UHD editions with absolutely stunning Dolby Atmos mixes. What can be said about such an AV receiver monster? Even if you were to write hundreds of words, you still wouldn't be able to adequately convey the power of this Marvel box. Because you should prepare for an unforgettable roller coaster experience the instant you connect and calibrate it. In every sequence we tested, the Cinema 40 demonstrated its mastery of the underlying material. Whatever the scene was about didn't matter. The Cinema 40 always rendered everything with such clarity, precision, and pinpoint accuracy that it almost gave us the impression that we were actually there, whether it was Godzilla and Kong settling their differences on an aircraft carrier, a car chase in the middle of the desert heading straight into a thunderstorm, or the ride of the Rohirrim on Pelennor Fields. The front soundstage was big, strong, and incredibly broad, pushing the sound out to the sides and creating a level of depth that went much beyond the distance from our test TV. Everything was in perfect harmony, and all conversation was discreetly placed between the 2 major channels so that each voice could be clearly heard. Its surround performance was also remarkable. Fast overlapping between the speakers and great directionality with pinpoint accuracy created the impression that you were in the thick of the action. Every source was audibly heard from its proper location and there was no perceptible delay while using panning effects. The receiver performed remarkably well overall. At least in our humble opinion, it was one of the best performances a single-box solution can deliver in terms of cinematic perfection. The kind of sound you will receive out of it is undoubtedly well worth its money. The new portfolio ensures that Marantz AV receivers' musicality, for which they have long been renowned, continues. As a result, this receiver can play back high-resolution audio in the form of FLAC, ALAC, and WAV files up to 192 kHz at 24-bit quality in addition to the standard lower-quality audio formats like MP3, WMA, and AAC. Additionally, DSD streaming is accessible at 2.8 and 5.6 MHz. Next, let's check at the connectivity features of the Cinema 40. Here, we can see that the new model has certain differences from the SR7015. Contrarily, it shares a striking resemblance with the AVR X4800H aside from a small improvement that we will highlight. The frontal ports, which comprise the USB port, setup microphone port, and headphone jack, were already stated. This one also lacks a front HDMI input, but we'll keep hoping that Sound United will decide to add one in the future. The standard 11 speaker connectors are located in a straight line at the lower rear, which greatly facilitates wire management. Marantz's terminals are of the customary high quality, but they set themselves apart by using transparent caps rather than Denon's standard black and red ones. However, as usual, an external amplifier is required for the final 2 channels if you wish to use all 11 channels. Next, we'll go over all the added features that the Cinema 40 offers. This is undoubtedly a long list, even if it isn't all that different from what the Cinema 50 included. As a result, this portion of our review will be comparable, but we will always make the appropriate adjustments as needed. This time, we have two audio correction systems, so let's start there. As usual, Marantz is utilizing the Odyssey technology and scaling it appropriately to meet the pricing and performance requirements of each of their products. The Odyssey Multiple EQ XT32 edition, which is their best and most feature-rich suite, is what we receive for the Cinema 40. Compared to the previous versions, this one has the highest resolution filters, which may lead to more accurate calibration. Additionally, Dynamic Volume, Dynamic EQ, Odyssey LFC, and Odyssey Sub-EQ HT are included with the Odyssey Multiple EQ XT32. With the help of the built-in microphone, this version of Odyssey can assess up to 8 different listening positions and produce exact digital filters to provide the optimum audio quality for your specific environment. Why pay so much when the Denon AVR X4800H delivers comparable specifications and a very similar feature set for approximately $1,000 cheaper is a question that many consumers understandably ask. In order to appreciate the slight distinctions between these units and the solution, you must first hear both of them. What we can say is that, despite the fact that these variations are minor and extremely faint, their auditory signatures are distinct. Each person may have a different view on whether this may be worth the cost. But to us, it most certainly merits it. It would be impossible to list all of the positive qualities about Cinema 40 in a single paragraph. Its cinematic talents are undeniable, its musicality and warm sonic personality are unmistakably a Marantz highlight, and its technical specifications place this one at the top of its field. With 40 gigabits per second HDMI inputs, several networking choices, and a long list of features, this device's potential is practically limitless. Was there anything about this amazing unit that we didn't like? The number of analog ports has decreased, which we do not necessarily consider to be a bad thing, but the front HDMI inputs removal is a significant change in our opinion. The Odyssey Multiple EQ Editor app ought to be free, the 40 gigabits per second HDMI 2.1 ports might be adequate for now, but they won't be in the future when higher bandwidth signals become more common, and the cost is significantly higher than it was in earlier iterations. As our review comes to a close, we cannot help but feel incredibly satisfied with what we observed in this one. There is no denying that the Marantz Cinema 40 is one of the best AV receivers you can buy for your home theater and always leaves us in amazement, regardless of the source material. Highly suggested.